Hello, it's your boy Pat with PATS Advanced Training Solutions. Today we will be taking a look at PATS shooting stance and doing a slight comparison between our stance and two commonly used stances out there for shooting. But before we do, make sure you subscribe and smash that like button so we can bring more content to you in the future. Two commonly used shooting stances are what we're going to discuss next. The first one is the Weaver stance. So let's take a look at the Weaver stance. The Weaver stance is characterized by a slightly bladed body with the front elbow downward. This provides for a minimization of shooting area once being attacked. But it does kind of open law enforcement up to some vulnerabilities in their body armor. Second, let's take a look at the isosceles stance. The isosceles stance is characterized by the way the shooter's upper body looks from a top view. It looks like an isosceles triangle. Thus the name isosceles stance. The isosceles stance is more squared up with more body armor facing towards the bad guy. Both feet are about shoulder width apart and are parallel with each other. This gives us a good shooting platform with a slight bend in our knees to also help account for some recoil issues once we're shooting. Now, PATS shooting platform is somewhat of an amalgamation between the two stances. Now let's take a look at PATS shooting stance. As we can see, the lower body is a bit more squared, but is very similar to the Weaver stance. We're not bladed as the Weaver stance is bladed, as we have seen earlier. This stance provides for a more powerful base and versatility in our shooting stance. The upper half of our body in the PATS shooting stance is very similar to the isosceles stance. Again, isosceles is making that triangle from the shoulders to the tip of your hands. The slight difference is that we do not lock out our arms, but rather use a more relaxed arm bend to help us with recoil management. Why is that important? Follow-up shots are very important when it comes to combat shooting. Now, passive stance, we like to call our fighting stance because our stance is used universal. A fighting stance should be the same across all weapon systems that may be used by you, as to not complicate things. If we have one stance for one application or variation, if we have another one for another, that's too much thinking under stress. Therefore, we streamline things. For example, this stance should be easily adaptable into an empty hand combat stance. Combat with a stick or a baton. Our stance is the same. Combat with a knife. Again, our stance is the same. If we keep the same, we don't have to do as much thinking under pressure. As well as the combat with the firearms. The stance is exactly the same. The same across all platforms. PATS fighting stance also allows us for more mobility during intense, rapidly evolving, and uncertain situations. PATS fighting stance also allows for greater and faster power generation when not shooting, but an excellent shooting platform when utilize our firearms. We at PATS have found this stance much easier for beginner shooters to utilize. It's simpler And it's a little bit more of what we're going to naturally do anyway. If you would like more information about our concepts, please visit us. I'm going to add the links below where you can contact us, reach out to us. And remember, hey, subscribe and like so we can get back with you. Once again, my fellow YouTubers, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, depending on where you are in YouTube land. I bid you adieu. Until next time.